3:30. No one was coming. It was obvious. True. There, all the time. Surely they had known. Surely they'd realized that the distress call never reached home. Home. A pinprick. Light faintly shimmering, winking on the face of darkness. Darkness lurking beyond the glass. Stars long dead. Out here, everything was dead. The ship was dead. Amy and Rockhand were dead, torn to pieces, splattered against the walls and floor and ceiling. Flesh floated across his vision, minuscule, the size of particles. Dust, dust, dust. We all turned to dust. Singing bled through the metal. That voice. He recognized that voice. That voice belonged to Jael, the repairman, gray-haired, in skin splotched by black, long scorched, eyes furtive. Jael, who was supposed to be dead. Dead. Lost in the walls. He had crawled after hearing his wife's voice. The voice singing beside his. The voice that couldn't have been a voice. Had never been a voice. Just the creaking and groaning whine of oxygen pipes. There was no one in the walls. There was no one calling his name. There was no one. No one. They were no ones. Him and the rest, if there were any left. He hadn't seen the others since Hayton pulled the gun during supper. It shouldn't have been loaded. They never kept it loaded, but it had been loaded. And what was loaded was unloaded, suddenly, loudly. Unloaded straight into Hayton and his poor, mottled brain. His brain painted them. His brain was still on the wall. The wall was still feeding on his brain. Everyone else had been running away, their meals forgotten. Voices echoing. So, he was the only one who saw. Dear God of homeward journeys, he saw. Red paint seethed. Meat was slurped behind steel, metal, smarterial. It vanished before his very eyes. At that, he very nearly wished his eyes would vanish. But he stopped himself before it could crystallize. Before the thought could be thought. 30 days. 30 days of silence. Not even screams. Just silence. And the singing. The others were probably already dead. Long dead. Which way had they run? Which rooms did they choose to hide in? Which shelter was safe? None. All the rooms. Once you stepped inside, the door would close, the jaw would snap shut, and you'd be mush. Jelly. Paste. Chewed up. Spat back out. 30 days of sitting in his special spot. 30 days of canned hunger gnawing at his bones. 30 days of watching for the wall to breathe. Rochelle didn't want to come. To leave home again. Leave her daughter alone. There'd been enough months spent away from home already. Enough of the dark. He blinked despite himself. Rochelle's daughter. Her daughter. Her daughter kept sending messages, video calls, images flung across this abyss. Sounds echoed in this hall of horrors. Even when the power had gone and the lights went dim, the calls kept coming. The anger kept coming. The hatred. Rochelle would watch them, but not around the others. She only watched them behind a closed door. Everyone could still hear. Cries of pain at the sight that seeped through regardless, appearing inside one's eye. Her daughter's pretty face, baby face, blue-eyed, blonde hair, skin split open, maggots birthing from desecrated flesh, sockets elongating, mouth moving, a silent accusation, a question. Why? 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 And Rochelle never answered, wouldn't answer, and couldn't. Because it wasn't her daughter that asked. Home was not asking. It was the dark. The dark did that. The dark did everything. He suddenly remembered about a barrow who always played with a knife. A relic from his time amidst the solar navy. A lifesaver while landing on crimson beaches, braving nerve-bundled jungles. But contraband on the ship. Weapons weren't allowed. Everyone knew that. He wondered if a barrow was still playing with it, if the officer was moving the blade against his skin, running it up and down, again and again, all to win the game. Except a barrow wouldn't. Playing the game meant playing the game. Winning was not an option. Nobody could win the game. The dark was the only one playing the game. None of them could even understand the rules of the game. Nobody knew. Nobody could put it together without blame. There hadn't been any time to think. Everything happened so fast. The feeling was small at first. Someone watching from behind, pinching them. It began to grow each sleep cycle, that weird feeling pressing against their nerves, running them raw, nightmares, headaches, faces going blank, then falling inwards. Violence came next. Violence always came next. It would always come next. It would be the same thing next time, with the next ship. He was the only one who had seen, the only one who knew the truth. He wished he didn't. Wished for the truth to go away, for nothing else to happen. His eyes stayed shut, screwed as tight as possible. His mind kept flashing. Happy moments. Laughter. Suppers where stories were told with smiles and hugs. Rachel used to hug him. A little brother in reputation only. A big sister in role only. Thape would raise his glass of astrocotch, and he would sing. Recite the old mariner songs. Family suppers. He wished, and nothing did happen. Nothing changed. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. Just like with the sea. The old sea. Home. The old mariners had gotten it wrong. There were no monsters below. No tentacles waited for a wave to crash. No giants crushed the old ships. The old ships weren't dragged down, 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 below, around. There was only darkness. The dark. Perfect. Fast. Older than the old ships, the old mariners, the old sea itself. Old enough to simply be, to exist as itself, unbothered by the infantile march of time. The dark had always been there, will always be there. Home. And here, away from home, around him, nobody would know. But he would. And he would always know, would always be the only one to know. The walls sang of miracles, secrets, awful things sweet. Sweet as blood, sweet as peace, and quiet, as happy days. He bit down. His tongue gave out, bit down until that promised sweetness came. Freely, like a spring. The scent of pennies kissed recycled air. Stickiness fell onto his lap, staining hands. The dark took him in, just like with the others. Amy and Rockhand, Jael, Rachel, Hayden, Abaro, Percy, Nick, Miley, Thape. Mariners never took it. None had ever taken it in all the way, not without drowning. But the dark could. The dark always took them. It took everyone, everything. Everything was swallowed, chewed up, digested, over eternity. He laughed. He laughed so loud. The wall stopped singing. He smiled. His reflection faded away. The others were grinning back at him. He hugged himself, hugged so tightly. So tightly, his bones made music. Such pretty music that he cried warm tears. He raised his hands, his stained hands, full hands. Ellen Koch bubbled within his cupped palms. It tasted so sweet, a toast, and he sang a new song.